Okay, so we're gonna start. I want to give these out after because I don't want you to see what I'm about to say, and I want you to think about it. Okay, so first of all, the shul is dedicated for clarity, health, and zivug hagaon. For Hana Bat Alta Orsi, and it was sponsored by Miriam Behar. So thank you for our sponsor. Huh? Because I think you have to say like what it's sponsored for.
No, but why do you really like zivug hagaon?
Because it's a zivug hagaon. I don't know what that means.
You don't know?
No.
Zivug hagaon, that's what people say.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I never heard of that.
What does it mean? What does it mean?
Yeah, like I feel like it's like
I don't know. Anyways,
Yeah,
so
I've
Be'ezrat
heard
Hashem, clarity, health, and zivug for Hana Bat Alta Orsi, and it was sponsored by Miriam Behar. So thank you. So I want to go over what we spoke about the last 2 weeks. We spoke about happiness. We spoke about the reward system and how everything we do is not actually a reward. It's a circumstance in order for us to grow and transform ourselves. And so everything that we have in life, sometimes we may feel like it's a reward for something, but it's actually a test from Hashem in order to grow. Meaning everything we acquire, whether it's wealth, influence, status, power, it's really a breeding ground for transformation. So this next lesson really piggybacks off what we said about happiness and reward, but it's a very interesting one. And before we dive into it, I want to ask you, and you guys are more than welcome to answer also on the Zoom. I want you to think about the last time you did a very big mitzvah, like something that you did that was big, and how did it make you feel? I don't have an answer. I didn't even think about it, but take a minute. Shani?
like how did it make me feel? I felt more like it feels like you're like happy, like complete, like you know, like you feel like you're in the right place. You know, like something
You're doing the right thing.
What?
Like you're doing the right thing.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
No, me too.
Yeah.
I feel like you're doing the right thing. No, but then again, I feel like it's normal. I'm doing it. You know,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, something like yesterday there was this very old guy who was completely lost with stupid system of elevator and all this. Very old. So okay, I took him to the floor. But I felt it was a mitzvah. I didn't have to do it, but I felt it was normal to do it.
It's interesting that you say that. So we're gonna go into that, what you just said. So the feeling that you had, would you say that it's a reward? Or it was just something that you're already used to?
No,
Shani?
Yeah, I think it is.
So sometimes when we do mitzvot, the reward is really you feel close to Hashem. You have the sense of peace, serenity, like you're doing the right thing. It's almost like very fulfilling because you think, okay, like this life is just about doing good, right? So Rabbi Dessler explains, and this is the next chapter in the book, that the reward of a mitzvah, remember how we said there's no reward in this world because it cannot contain, right? The reward itself for a mitzvah, even the tiniest mitzvah, cannot be contained in this world because it's so grand and so big, and it's something that can't be finite. It's something that's infinite. But he explains, he's going deeper into it, and he explains that when you do a mitzvah, the schar, the reward of it, is that it pulls you to do another mitzvah. So how he said is schar mitzvah in Hebrew, schar mitzvah, mitzvah. Meaning like the schar of the mitzvah, the reward of a mitzvah, is that you get pulled to do another mitzvah. So it was a very interesting concept. We're going to go deeper into it. But what does it mean? It means that the spiritual capacity that's created when you do a mitzvah, it enables you to do the next mitzvah even easier. Okay? The ability and the inner strength that you get from doing a mitzvah, especially when it's a big mitzvah, that's why I asked you, what does it make you feel? That in itself is the reward that is in this world. Okay? So the true reward of anything that we do, we always say that the whole point of life, of the world, is to elevate Hashem. Everything that we do is to elevate. When you eat something and you make a bracha, when you do prayers in the morning and you wake up and you say Modani, you're elevating your day already, right? You're including Hashem in everything that you do. So the true reward is the very fact that Hashem sanctified us by giving us His mitzvot, and He grants us the privilege of serving Him. And why is that so important? Because think about the last time that you did a mitzvah. It makes you feel this like peace, serenity. You're in the right space. You're in the right direction. Especially in this day and age, especially in this world, there's so much like confusion. You feel lost. You don't know where you're headed. So Hashem says, I'm going to give you the biggest gift, and it is to do mitzvot. Because one mitzvah will push you to do another. So I want to go deeper into it, but it seems also, when I'm saying this, that it's counterintuitive, because you think Hashem's keeping score every time that you're doing a mitzvah. He's keeping score. Okay, you have X amount of mitzvot, you're going here. You have X amount of sins, you're going here. But you have to understand that Hashem doesn't work in a reward system. He doesn't say, okay, you did this, and this is the result, and this is what you're getting. It's not how it works, even though we think that's how it works. It's not like every mitzvah we get a little star, and it's like when you get 30 stars, you get a reward, right? It doesn't work like that. So Rabbi Dessler explains that every mitzvah is a chance, in fact, to create a stronger path to do more mitzvot, and therefore that is how we become givers, builders, creators, and transformers. Okay? Every time you make a decision, you are either, I always say this, every time you make a decision, you're either making a choice to repair the world and make it a better place, or you're making a choice to bring the world lower, right? To quote unquote destroy the world. You're either choosing, it's how Margie explains in the Tanya, when she teaches the Tanya, it's either you choose to act from the animal soul or you're acting from the divine soul, right? Are you going to do the decision that you're about to make? Is it going to help somebody? Is it going to help the world? Or is it going to lower the world? Okay, or is it going to help you in the future to do more mitzvot? It's always a matter of nekudat habechira, Rabbi Dessler calls it, the choice point. That's what he calls it. Now, when you choose good, your bechira point moves up. So every time you choose to do good, it's almost like a muscle. The more you work your muscle, the stronger it is, and then you're able to lift even stronger things, even heavier things. Why? Because you've been practicing. So every time you do a mitzvah, the reward is not that you get a reward. It's that you're able to pull yourself to do another mitzvah. It pushes you. It propels you forward. So he explains that when you choose good, your bechira point moves up, meaning that the next time that you do that mitzvah, it's going to be easier for you. It's going to be almost instinctual. Because over time, when you do something, someone's calling me, my husband, call him after. Every time you do something, it becomes a little bit easier. So he explained that when you choose the next good more easily, that is the mitzvah in itself, that you're able to choose more easily and more freely, and it's going to be easier for you later on to work from the divine soul rather than the animal soul. Okay? Now I'm going to give you examples, and this is everyday examples that we go through. You're exhausted at bedtime, right? Another child in the middle of the night says, Iman, I want water. For me, it's like I have 3 kids. They're in 2 different rooms, right? 2 kids and then 1. And then, every hour it's like, Iman, I'm hungry. Iman, I want water. I'm like, aren't you sleeping? Like, it's 9 p.m., They're always wanting something. But every time I choose not to scream, not to raise my voice, and to just work with patience, the more patient I'm going to have. It makes more sense. It's a muscle. You're building a higher tolerance. It's in the same way that you say, in the very beginning when me and my husband got married, I always wanted to do like events and and open up my home, and I would do like at one point we did the first event was game night, like for like couples. It was like before everybody had had kids and everything. We had like a couples night, and it was like it became almost like a routine. I wanted to open up my home even more, and I wanted to do even more achnasat ochim, because it's like when you feel that for initial time when you open your home and everybody comes, wow, the food, your home is so cozy, the energy in your home, you feel this want to do it again. Okay, so this is what Rabbi Dessler explains. Another example is someone who's very stingy, but he decides one day that he's going to give a big amount to tzedakah. He says, I'm going to give, instead of the usual $50, I want to give $500. Okay, So he gives the $500. The next time, let's say he gave it today. Tomorrow, if he sees someone in need, it's going to be a little bit easier to give because he's practicing that mitzvah. So mitzvah, how Rabbi Dessler explains in Hebrew, mitzvah goreret mitzvah. One mitzvah pushes you to do another. Another example, when you keep praying to Hashem and he hasn't answered your prayers, right? Someone's trying to get pregnant, someone is trying to find their zivug, someone is trying to get good news when they're waiting for results, whatever it is that they're going through, right? What is the mitzvah goreret mitzvah? The minute that they continue praying and they push themselves instead of being like, I feel lost, that's it, I'm never going to get married, I'm never going to have a baby, I'm never going to have, I'm never going to be able to heal, God forbid. So all of these examples, the minute that you push yourself even more, I'm still going to pray, I still have faith in Hashem, I'm still going to continue, I still have faith in you. That is when you build the unshakable emunah in Hashem. That no matter what happens, you can't shake me. I still believe in Hashem no matter what, and I'm going to continue praying. Again, the mitzvah pulls you to do another mitzvah. It pulls you to create that connection with Hashem. So when you keep praying to Hashem, despite the fact that He still hasn't answered your prayer, right? We said that you're not only creating that unshakable faith, but it's something that you're continuing to build and build and build on a connection that if you didn't continue praying and you just gave up, it would have, it's almost like you would have lost the momentum, okay? So I also want to point out back to when I was saying when you're doing a mitzvah, you receive a much greater schar. So I'm not saying that when you do mitzvah, you don't get anything. But Hashem said, you're getting a schar in the next world. You're getting a reward in the next world because this world cannot contain the reward. But the actual reward in this world is the fact that that mitzvah is going to push you to do another. Okay? It's going to push your tolerance to a higher level. So I remember when I was in Israel, I went to like my rabbini's house and I asked her a question. I said, I come from Miami where everything is so beautiful and everyone has the nicest houses and, it's like a very important aspect of, how we live here, right? It's like you want to wear nice clothes. Everything is about aesthetics. And I told her, does it make sense, like if I pray to Hashem and I say like I want to have like a nice big house, is that very superficial? Is that like artificial? And she said, not at all. When you worship Hashem, but it's important for you to have a beautiful home in order to host your guests, but you're doing it in order to do avodat Hashem, then there's no problem, right? So a lot of people think, it's not okay to be materialistic, but as long as you elevate something and it is used as a keli, it is used as a tool to worship Hashem, then in itself, Be'ezrat Hashem brings you to a higher level, okay? So when I asked her, she said, it's actually the most beautiful thing when you realize that you even though you're drawn to something that is materialistic and you want something to be beautiful and you want to look good all the time, all these things, but you're doing it in order to serve Hashem. You want to look good because you represent Hashem. You want to have a beautiful home because you want to have a home where people are comfortable. To open your home and have guests in your home. That is allowed. That is actually the most beautiful thing for Hashem. It's very interesting because going off this idea, when the Beit HaMikdash and the Mishkan were built, beauty was a very, very important part of the Mishkan and Beit HaMikdash. And we don't realize, but when you look at the pictures of how it was back then, which we don't really know how it was, but we have pictures of what it did look like, or what it could have looked like. It's a masterpiece, right? You look at the Beit HaMikdash, it looks like a palace, like wow, the Mishkan also was beautiful. And it was Hashem who gave us those instructions. This is how you should build a Mishkan. This is how you should build a Beit HaMikdash. Why is it so important? Why is beauty so important? And so they explained that when something is beautiful, you treat it differently. It's almost like it's more fragile. You're in awe. You're like, wow, it gives you something. It gives you something that you're in awe, and the awe creates presence. It's almost like there's like something different about this versus other things. When you see something that's really beautiful, it like almost like takes your breath away. It gives all the attention. And so Hashem says, so the Torah repeatedly would describe the Mishkan as Kavod Hashem. That was the word they used, a place where Hashem's glory dwells. And the Ramban and the Kuzari and the Rav Hirsch say that all humans need physical experience to awaken spiritual consciousness. And that is why I remember when I went to Esther's son's bar mitzvah, and I went to that synagogue. I think it's Young Israel in Bar Harbor. It's a beautiful synagogue. I literally walked in. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's almost like that beauty was like, wow, I feel God's presence here, right? It's awe that draws this like presence. And so they explained that we need physical experience to awaken something spiritual in us. Examples are color, light, music, harmony, symmetry. They actually move our senses. Hashem created us with senses, and that is how we experience the world, right? We have the 5 senses. And they explained that the Mishkan was designed to be a multi-sensory experience. So, for example, with sight, there was a lot of gold, colors, there was fire when they were doing korbanot. They had the smell, which was the ketoret, the sound, which were the levim singing, right? It was like a multi-sensory experience. Touch, there was materials that they were touching, right, in order to create the korbanot, and the taste, which was the korbanot. So with this in mind, you're allowed to, again, pray for things like a bigger kitchen, have a nicer house in order to have, I remember when I was living in an apartment, I had 3 kids and we had 2 bedrooms. And I was telling Hashem, like, when I was making chalot, I had to bring like my island closer because I wasn't able to roll, I didn't have enough space. And I always was praying to Hashem that I have a bigger kitchen so I can make more chalot and bring to other people for Shabbat. And Baruch Hashem, now I have, a big enough space. But you're allowed to pray for those things because these material things, when you elevate them, they are used as kalim for avodat Hashem. Okay, so.
And you do make a lot of bread and give it.
I know. I love making bread. So back to what we were saying with reward and material is that there's nothing wrong with being attached to the material. Rewards such as a nice house or dressing in a nice way, it's totally okay. But as long as you're using it to worship Hashem, to elevate the world, to bring people closer to Hashem. All of these things are very, very important. And I want to go back to the concept of the fact that a mitzvah draws on another mitzvah, right? Schar mitzvah is a mitzvah. There's a very special book. It's called Mesilat Yesharim. You heard of it? Mesilat Yesharim is the path of the just, the Ramchal. And it was written by Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. And that is the word for the Ramchal. And it's a step-by-step book about spiritual refinement, okay? And he talks about 10 steps of growth. Now, you can't skip steps. So it's like different chapters, and it's like you have to work on step 1. Once you're done with step 1, which could take even a year, then you move on to step 2. You can't skip in the book, okay? Now, the 10 steps of growth are, number 1 is zeirut, which is watchfulness. This is where you're careful with the things that you do. You build this awareness of Hashem Yitbarach. You build awareness of everything that you do in life is really for Hashem. Number 2, we have zrizut, which I talk about this all the time with my kids. To be quick in doing mitzvot. When I was married, I'm still married, but originally when we got married, and I had my first baby, so I would like breastfeed the baby and be like, babe, can you pass me the whatever? And he would be like, yeah, 1 second. I'm like, Chaimi, zrizut, yalla, like hurry up to do a mitzvah. Zrizut is when somebody asks you to do a mitzvah, you run to do it. You don't wait a minute, like, 1 second. Exactly. You drop everything and you go and do it. Okay, that's the step 2, zrizut.
How do you call it?
Zerizut. Zerizut, which means it's almost a word for enthusiasm, like being quick on your feet to do a mitzvah. Number 3, nekiyut, which means cleansiness. Because you speak very good Hebrew. So cleansiness from bad habits. So the first is you build consciousness. Then you have this quickness about you doing mitzvot, because when you're quick about doing mitzvot, that's how, remember, mitzvah goreret mitzvah. You move on to the next thing. It becomes easier and easier and easier. And then you're able to cleanse yourself from the bad habits, right? Because you're already doing so many mitzvot. Number 4, perishut, creating healthy boundaries. 5, this is not, by the way, the shul. I'm just giving you like an example because we're going to go back to the original point. 5 is ta'ara, purity. 6, chasidut, having devotion to Hashem. 7, anava, humility. 8, irat chet, fear of sin, which is a very, very high level. The higher it is, the levels in Mesilat Yesharim, the harder it is to do. Kedusha, holiness. And then you have Ruach HaKodesh, which is divine inspiration. This is the last step where you're already completely naki from sin and you're ready to worship Hashem, and you have this rizut and you have the cleansiness and all of these things. So now, what is the point of explaining these things? The Ramchal explains how to develop each trait in this book. It's a beautiful book. Maybe I'll teach it after this one.
Yeah.
What blocks it? I love it. And how to overcome those blockages in order to reach the next level. Now, what is the point here? Again, it's going back to the original concept. Every level that you achieve is only achieved because you did the first level, right? You cannot go to the next level. Mitzvah goreret mitzvah. The only way that you can go to the next level is if you've done the original mitzvah, and then it will pull you and you'll have the tolerance, right? The standard to go to the next level, to go to the next mitzvah. So you can't jump steps, right? You do one mitzvah, it generates this spiritual capacity. Let's say now you're at 5, then the next mitzvah you do, it gets easier and easier, and then you've got into a whole other spiritual self. So that capacity that you build every time you do a mitzvah is the prerequisite for the next step. So every single mitzvah that you do is literally building your spiritual resistance. Okay, everything that you do, because you what's like a really difficult thing? Somebody who has really a lot of anger. They're born with anger. They're fire signs. It's very hard for them to hold in their anger. Instead of getting angry the next day 10 times a day, they get angry 9 times a day. Okay, and let's say it's that effort. It doesn't need to be like every day 9, 8, 7, 6. No, it could be 9 instead of 10 for 10 days, and then the next month it's 8 out of 10. And then it gets easier and easier and easier. That is the entire process. And that is because spiritual refinement is getting to the capacity where now you're able to take another step. Now you're like, okay, I'm able to hold myself a little bit more. So that is what he's saying. Every act of patience, every beracha that you make, every moment of restraint when you're doing Lashon Hara, I always say start with a day and a time. Every Monday at 5 p.m. I'm not doing Lashon Hara. No matter who calls me, I'm going to ignore the call if I know that I might, do Lashon Hara. And then 2 months later, you're like, okay, I've been doing, no Lashon Hara every Mondays at 5. Now I'm going to do maybe the whole Monday. You understand? So you're building that tolerance for the mitzvah, okay? So to conclude, because I don't like to do the shirim too long, so we can discuss a little bit. Your life is not defined by outcomes, but it's by choice points. You make the nekudat bechira is that point where you make a decision to hold yourself back, to, okay, I'm really, really tired, but I'm gonna be patient one more time for this child, and I won't raise my voice because I know later on it's gonna help me be more patient. I'm not gonna give up on the prayers. I know Be'ezrat Hashem, I'm gonna have a healthy baby. I'm gonna have a zivug. I'm not gonna give up, because that is what creates the next level of unshakable emunah in Hashem. So, just so that you understand, Hashem is not measuring results. He's not saying, you're angry today, tomorrow you're not angry, okay, so I'm going to judge you for this. No, he's measuring you for your courage. At the moment, the Bechira point, at that moment, when you chose to restrain yourself, when you chose to not speak Lashon Hara, when you chose to pray instead of being hopeless and being like, I don't care, whatever, right? All of these moments where you made that choice is where Hashem says, she had the courage to pick good, to have that mitzvah push you to do another mitzvah. So I want to end with a personal story just so that I can concentrate everything into one and give you like a realistic perspective. But this is something that happened in my life that brought me to my connection with Hashem, and it happened 11 years ago, I want to say. How many years am I married? 7. So I want to say 8 to 9 years ago. And I still remember it so vividly, like it was yesterday. So when I went to IDC, I was 21. And I was 21 or 22? I don't even remember. Yeah, I went to IDC in Israel. It's called Interdisciplinary Center in Herzliya. I was 21 years old, and I was in 2 emotionally, like a very abusive relationships, emotionally, not physically, but it was still, I think, just as bad. And I remember, so backstory, when I was 20, I got engaged to someone who was religiously more elevated than I was. I want to say I wasn't, I was still wearing pants. I wasn't so like, I was keeping Shabbat and kosher, but I didn't have the connection that I had now. And we just weren't on the same page. And it was almost like I was like rebelling a little bit, like religiously, with the situation, because I said, you want me to wear skirts? You want me to this? No, I'm not, that's not me. That's what I would, when you're 20 years old and not so mature at that point, that was my response. So when I went to Israel, the first thing that I wanted to do was, leave me alone. I don't want to hear religion. I want to live my life, so to speak. And I met this individual, super sweet guy, tattoos everywhere, completely not religious. I'm like, perfect. This is the person that I want to like start dating. I really liked him. We were like talking, but not religious at all. So,
So
we
you
were
were still religious, like Shabbat.
I was keeping Shabbat and kosher, but I wasn't,
Yeah.
there was like nothing else. It was just like, okay, because I was raised like that. There was no like real connection. So I was dating him for a year and a half. And I remember there was one point on Shabbat when we were doing like Kiddush. He like was hosting me at his house with his family, and he didn't know how to say the Kiddush. And I remember that moment. I was like, he doesn't know how to do, he can't say, he doesn't know. He was completely like Chiloni, he didn't know. And I'm like, okay, no. Like, I'm like, no. Like, it was almost like a shock to me. I was like, oh my God, like, no, like, this is not the road that I want to be in. So, anyways, so fast forward, we ended up breaking things off. And, 6 months later, I'm at my grandma's house for Shabbat in Bat Yam. And there's a new neighbor that knocks on the door at my grandma's house. And so my grandma answers the door, and I was sleeping on the couch. And he was in yeshiva at the time. And he looks at me, and he asks my grandma, who is that? So my grandma goes, it's my granddaughter. So anyways, fast forward, he like asked for my number. We ended up starting to date. And he was in yeshiva, and it was a completely different, relationship. You're dating someone with tattoos, like, and kesha, like no relationship to God. And then you have this person that is very dedicated to God. So it was completely, opposite sides of the spectrum. Anyways, when I was with this individual who was in yeshiva, he taught me Mesilat Yesharim. He's the one who introduced me to this book, which is so funny that I'm teaching about the steps. But we started with, we were learning about the Zrizut and acknowledging God and creating this awareness. And we were learning Torah, Gemara, and I'm like, that's it. Like, this is like my zivug, like, Bezrat Hashem, like, because I'm like, what other person am I going to go, am I going to be with? Who's going to be my husband? The person that teaches me Gemara and Torah. It seems like so, it's so perfect. So for me, I was like, okay, this is going to be my husband. He introduced me to someone who was a rabbanit in Jerusalem, in Ramot Dalet, who is an incredible, incredible individual. And I met her once through this person that I was with, and she was amazing and all these things. And then anyways, fast forward, he joined the army after yeshiva. And the army destroyed the religion that he had in him, like completely. I don't know if I don't want to say lost his mind, but he was completely like off the derech. Now, it's interesting because it's very sad. And, he gave the one gift that I can say, even though that was also an emotionally abusive relationship, I can say that the one thing he gave me was the love of Torah. He introduced me to something that I was like, I didn't even know existed. I was like, Torah, Gemara, this, like, I was like, what is this new world? It was so like, and I always say till this day, it's his merit that I was able to be introduced to this, to this beautiful world. And anyways, I remember, so this is the Nekudat HaBechira that I wanted to talk about. When we had broken up, this individual, I don't think is like a mentally stable individual, but he was someone who, while we were separated, would continue calling me, when am I seeing you, when this? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we're not like together anymore. And anyways, he was very like, he wouldn't leave me alone, almost like, for lack of a better word, he just wouldn't like leave me alone, basically. I would block his number, he would call from his friend's number, like it was just like a lot. So anyways, at one point I was like, I can't stay in this abusive relationship. It's not healthy for me. But it was very hard because he was my neighbor. So I'm like, I'm seeing him all the time. Like, how am I gonna, So I remember so vividly, I'm in IDC in Herzliya, and I just grab my stuff. I take a bus all the way to Jerusalem, which is like, it's from Herzliya, it's 3 buses. So I do a 3-hour journey to Yerushalayim. And I call my Rabbanit. I'm like, I'm in front of your house. Like, I was like, I need you to strengthen me. Because I remember the last time that I had learned Torah, I was so like mind-opening that I was like, I need to do this again, right? I need to be able to learn Torah. That is the only way that I'm going to be strengthened. And so she took me in, and I told her I want to come every Wednesday or every whatever day that she was available. And I said, I want to study with you all day. If you can please just sit with me and study with me all day. And if your grandkids come and you need help, I'll help you. But I want to like be in your home. Because I felt like the Shekhinah in her home. She had no AC. She was the most simple person. 11 kids. Like, really, it was the real deal. Like, you really see the people who live in simplicity, and just everything is avodat Hashem. Everything is loving Hashem. So, back to what I was saying. I wouldn't be here today if I didn't make that decision that I'm dropping everything and going to my Rabbanit and just learning Torah all day, and strengthening myself and chozeret b'tshuva. Because the individual that I was with, he introduced me to Torah, but it wasn't the person that helped me come back to Hashem. It was this Rabbanit that sat with me day and night. Even though I was like, no, I want to marry this person. He still loves me. He's after me. And she was like, Sharon, this is not the person for you. And she pushed me, you deserve better, you're better. And if it wasn't for this person, I don't know what relationship I would be in right now. Everything is choices. When you make a decision, every decision in life will lead you, mitzvah goreret mitzvah. It will lead you to do another thing. And I said, today I'm learning Torah. I don't care if I have an exam. I don't care if I'm, in Herzliya, which is at the end of the world from Yerushalayim. It's a long drive. I don't care. I dropped everything, took 3 buses, went to see my Rabbanit. I want to learn Torah. And that nekudat habechira, thank God, led me to leaving Israel, because I was so stuck in that like emotionally abusive relationship that I was like, I'm getting a ticket and I'm going home. And by the way, the reason why I was going home was not because of this, because I went with my Rabbanit to every single midrasha in Jerusalem, and not one accepted me. And it was either because I didn't find it clean, the person didn't find me enough religious, it was too far, there was always something. And she looked at me and she said, Sharon, as much as I want you to stay here with me, Hashem doesn't want you in Israel. He's like, he needs you somewhere else. Either it's in Miami, I don't know where, but you're not like, not that you're not wanted here, but this is not your path. Because she's like, I've never had someone be like rejected from almost every midrasha that I know. And she's like, she had connections. Her husband was the head of a yeshiva in Ramot. Like, I was like, okay, like get me into midrasha. I want to learn more Torah. That was my goal. She said, this is not your path here. She's like, trust me, take a flight, go home. So that was a time that's it. That was my time in Israel. I took a ticket home. Literally the minute she told me, I booked a ticket home, and that was my official, leaving Israel. And that was for me like the final straw to end all the negative relationships and really to connect myself more with Hashem. I get to Miami. A month later, I met my husband. Like literally a month on the dot. I downloaded J-Swipe for one day, swiped right on my husband, deleted the app, and then he found me on Facebook, and we started talking. And then 5 months later, we got engaged, and then we got married. But you make a connection at the end of the day, and you see every nekudat bechira, mitzvah goreret mitzvah, but every decision that you make is going to drastically impact your life, no matter how big or how small. So you make that decision, right? And so today, it's funny. I'm teaching you about Mesilat Yesharim, and Baruch Hashem, I'm in a much healthier relationship and marriage, and Baruch Hashem, now I have kids, and I'm able to teach Torah, right? And not in a way that I learned it, but even more so. So everything is a choice. Everything is a choice. And Rabbi Dessler explains that the nekudat habechira is that moment where Hashem says, have the courage to choose, to do good, and to connect with me. And that was, and I think from my personal experience, that was what I did. So, yeah.